In early 2005, Israel's most venerated Orthodox rabbi claimed he had met the Messiah. He also made a public announcement that he had written the Messiah's name in a note. This note was locked away, only to be revealed 1 year after his death. Just a few months later, however, he was dead. Time to uncover things visible and invisible. Carl, the last time we spoke, you gave a very intriguing introduction to the basis of your book. Just set the scene. This is the start of the 21st century. We have a very eminent rabbi in Israel who suddenly decides that he has seen the Messiah. What happens next?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell the general story, and then hopefully we'll have time to get into some more details, because what comes after the general story, and the general story has to be told, so thank you for setting me up for that. But what comes after that, through the next several years, and all of this is in the book, is absolutely mind-blowing. The intrigue, the cover-up, the fake news, the attacks, the disinformation campaign, as you could imagine. I mean, when the word came out and the note in his handwriting said it, all manner of crazy conspiracy theories went forward, and that's when I met Zev, and all kinds of things began to happen. But I'm going to tell the general story. But
Well, I just, for anybody who hasn't seen the first episode, I suggest you go and watch it. But for anybody who hasn't, Carl, if you wouldn't mind just giving a brief summary of who this person was, what they experienced, and what they wrote, and then what happened next.
Yes, this is Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri, the most venerated rabbi in Israel's history, his modern history, but even in the ancient history. When the day he died, there were 200, 300,000 people. This was carried in major news around the world. People that came to it. They shut the entire city of Jerusalem down. The president, not the prime minister, but the president of Israel, he actually gave the eulogy. The prime minister was there. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Kaduri were great friends. So he was 108 when he died, respected by all the Jews in Israel and most of the Jews around the world. And he made the statement right before he died, a couple of months before, and I don't think he knew he was going to die, but a couple of months before, he said, "I have met Messiah in a vision several times. I know who he is, I know his name, and I know when he's coming, but I will release that name very soon." And he did.
So he wrote it down, and I believe he left it with his officials. Did he? He sealed it and left it with his officials?
Yeah, I was going to get into the story now, but you asked me to give you the,
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. So now you're right. I'll pick up the story there. So here's how it happened. In 2005, late 2005, it was at Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the services that go with that. See, he had a synagogue of his own in Jerusalem. He was the chief rabbi, of course. He also had a yeshiva, which is, as you know, in a lot of your audience, a Hebrew word meaning basically a seminary, a place where the rabbis are trained to be rabbis. So he was the head of that. He had a huge ministry organization. To this day, there's a building in downtown Jerusalem. I forgot, 3 or 4 or 5 stories with all the executives there and the secretaries and the bookkeepers. And I mean, it's crazy. It's a huge ministry that's been going on for a long time. So he was not some obscure rabbi, okay? So the bottom line is, at a Yom Kippur service in his synagogue, he was speaking to his people. Now, this was a Yom Kippur service. Now, Messianic Rabbi Zev Porat, my ministry partner, Orthodox Jew, he explained this to me that I'm getting ready to say, and it's in my book, that what he did in that service was so untraditional, so unorthodox. Zev said if he hadn't been who he was, like the Billy Graham of the Jews, if you will, I know the Jewish people might be offended by that. I'm trying to help Christians understand how important this guy was. But if he wasn't that kind of a guy, he would have gotten in a lot of trouble for what he did, but he could do it. And that is, he actually delivered a sermon and began preaching about salvation, and not the way I would do it, but he was preaching about the personal salvation was important. Now, Yom Kippur is basically about national salvation. It's about national repentance. But Kaduri was talking about personal repentance, personal salvation. I mean, no other rabbi in Jerusalem or Israel, probably anywhere in the world, on that day in a synagogue could preach that message without an outrage going. But it didn't happen. The people were spellbound because in that he announced that he had met the true Messiah and knew his name and was going to reveal it. And this is what he said: I have put it in a note in my handwriting. I'm delivering it to my ministry officials sealed. And 1 year after I die, I want it opened and put on the internet. They had a huge website for the whole world to see. Now, this 1 year after, that's a Orthodox rabbinic tradition that you don't speak of the dead, and you don't go partying or whatever. You don't make any grandiose statements about them until after 1 year. Let the family grieve, let everybody grieve. Not all Jewish denominations do that, but his did and many others did. So that's why he said that. People always ask, why did he say that? That's why. But 1 year after he died. Now, let me tell you what happened. So he's making this announcement in October, Yom Kippur. He also, Ariel Sharon was the prime minister. In that same year, earlier on, he had given, guess what? He had given away, with the United States pressuring, the Gaza Strip. And the Orthodox world was furious with him. As a matter of fact, they pronounced a curse over him, the Pulsa Dunera, it's called, and that's in my book as well. But Kaduri wasn't a part of that. But they pronounced curses on him to death. It was weird, but it was in the media, and so it's all referenced in my book. But Kaduri didn't do that. He knew Chiron. In fact, Ariel Sharon, by the way, spent the night in Zev Porat's grandparents' home. Zev Porat, my ministry partner, knew Kaduri personally. His whole family did. He had been in their home. This is why he's so connected to this story, and he co-authored this book with me. But anyway, so that was in October. Well, by January of 2006, Chiron had a massive stroke and was put in the hospital in Jerusalem. He wound up being in a coma for 8 years. He died in 2013. So now remember that. October, Kaduri saying this. He's got a curse on him, Chiron does. But then from October to January, Chiron is fine, but in January he has a stroke, goes in the hospital. 1 week later, Kaduri gets pneumonia, a bad case of pneumonia. He goes to the hospital in January, in the same hospital Chiron is in. Eventually they were separated, I think because Chiron needed deeper help. But so Kaduri's lying in bed with pneumonia in the same month. So it's like after he's made this announcement, not knowing he would die in that month, in that hospital, Kaduri would. But not knowing that, he's saying, after I die, wait 1 year and give the note. So little did he know, or maybe God did tell him, but he didn't say to anybody, little did he know that death would happen in just a couple of months from when he said that. So he's in there. So Chiron gets put in another hospital. He lives another 8 years in a coma. But Kaduri, right up to the day he died, very aware, very intelligent, very outspoken, but sickly and in the hospital, surrounded by family. But anyway, he passed away. So his son, who is the heir of the whole ministry, who had been in ministry with him, his son was 80 years old, because Kaduri was 108. But he inherited the whole thing. But his son then took the note. He had the combination to the safe that Kaduri kept it in. He took the note. It was under seal, all kind of seals, wax seals and everything else. And he put it in his safe for keeping until that 1 year. So January of 2007, the note was put on their website, proudly displayed to the world. And I got a photocopy of it. Many people did, screenshots, and it's in my book. And you can see his handwriting was very unique. A handwriting expert testified to this. That's in my book as well. Israel's premier handwriting expert, by the way, works for the CIA of Israel, works for the military intelligence. So this guy knew what he was saying. He said, "Yep, that's original. That's Kaduri's," and that was put on the website. Now here's the key to the whole thing, to the intrigue of this story. Here's what the note said. I'm going to say it in English. Concerning the letter abbreviation of his name, because remember, he said, "I'll give you the name of Messiah." So his name, he's talking about the name of Messiah. Concerning the letter abbreviation of his name, he will lift his people and prove that the word and the law are valid. Well, they put that up there, and it obviously didn't have the name in it like he promised, but he mentions the name in this cryptic format. So his ministry, now David Kaduri, his son, his ministry, they had all these stories up in the major news in Israel, even I think the English one, Israel Today or something like that. They had a big thing. They had a photo screen of it. I mean, a photocopy of it, screenshot. But then after a few months, some of Kaduri's disciples, students that Zev Porat knew personally were coming and saying, "Look, the name of Messiah is there." He coded it. He did it as like an acronym. This is a way that it's a part of.
Just on that, Carl, because just pause, because this is absolutely fascinating. But on your previous appearance on this show, you talked about one of your other books, which was about the Yeshua code. Is there a connection here? I mean, is this something which is very sort of rabbinic, something very Jewish, that there is this encoding within the text?
Yes, there is, and it is connected to my book, Yeshua Code, to the point that I write about that connection. And I have Zev offer, I think he wrote a chapter about it because he's been very involved in it. And the connection can't be denied. Now, people don't like what he said. And I'll tell you what he said and I'll give you the code. But the bottom line is, that's when the cover-up started. The Orthodox world in Israel went crazy. David, his son, went crazy. They actually said things like, "Well, the Christians hacked our site and put this in there." Well, hacked it. You put the note up there, and you wrote stories about it. But immediately when the decoding came out, and it was so obvious to everybody then, they they took it down and started blaming Christians, and somebody did sabotage from in the organization and all. It was in David's safe, from Kaduri's safe. They're the ones that put it on the site. No, there was no foul play. They were so proud of it. Well, anyway, the students contacted, or Zev contacted them because he knew some of them. In fact, there's some video on YouTube of Zev sitting with one of those students in his rabbinic garb in a park, and they're talking about it in Hebrew, but Zev is translating it in English as they go along. They're talking about the whole thing. So it's verified in a video. But what happened was, listen to it again. Concerning the letter abbreviation of his name, and Hebrew doesn't have commas, but I'm going to say, comma, he shall lift his people and prove that the word and law are valid. Well, he shall lift his people and prove that the word and law are valid. That's just something you would say about Messiah. Yeah, he'll lift his people and, raise them up and prove that the word is valid. Well, but there's 6 Hebrew words that make up all of those English words. He shall lift his people and prove that the word and law are valid. But the Hebrew, when it's spoken, it uses what we would call 6 words. And when you take the first letter, see the letter abbreviation of his name, when you take the first letter of all 6 words, it spells Yehoshua. Now, I have a good friend named Pat Boone, who used to be a world famous singer. He and Benjamin Netanyahu are good friends. I don't know Benjamin Netanyahu personally, but Pat Boone does. They've been good friends forever. I've been friends with Pat for almost a decade. He calls me several times a month, and I call him, and we've been on television shows together. So I'm not making this up. But the point is, when he read that note to Benjamin Netanyahu, actually let him see it. He showed him the note in my book. And he said, Yehoshua. He said, that's Yeshua. That's Jesus. Benjamin Netanyahu said that. Pat Boone has said this all over international television. Now, for the Hebrew-speaking people, I'm quite aware that Yehoshua and Yeshua are a little different. And the easiest way to explain it is Yehoshua means it is God who will bring you Yeshua. Okay, and so that. So the name Yeshua, the two are almost synonymous in the way that they're spoken and the way that they're used. So everybody knew, including the ministry. Oh my gosh.
Can I just ask though? I was going to say, Carl, I'm going to be the devil's advocate, but I didn't want to put it like that. But because on the last occasion we met, and you were talking about the Yeshua code, we talked about the name Yeshua and how it appears in the Old Testament, Christian Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, and how it's really saying that God saves. That's the Hebrew or the English translation, more or less, of what it's saying. God saves. Could this be not so much a name, but a kind of, for want of a rather prosaic, a job description? You know, that what was being encrypted here was something which all Christians and all Jews would probably agree on, that God is the active salvation agent in the world. Could it be that?
That is a good question, and that is what people thought when they first saw the note. But it says, concerning the letter abbreviation of his name. And he had announced, I know the name of the Messiah, and he is coming, and I know about when. And then when Pat Boone gave him the note, because Pat was interested to see how he would interpret it, Benjamin Netanyahu read it, and the first thing out of his mouth was, it's Jesus. He said that. He says it's Jesus. No, so yeah, it would sound like a job description. It was meant that. Look, if Kaduri had said, take this note and put it on the internet, if it had just said, it is Yeshua, or it is Yehoshua who brings us, it's Yahweh that brings us Yeshua, and Yeshua is him. If it said that, they would have never put it up there. It would have gone in the garbage. They would have covered it up. They'd have said, well, the old man lost his mind. We're not putting this on our website. He did it on purpose so that it would be up there, and he knew it would be up there for a while. But he had been teaching a select group of his students who were beginning to see these codes and these revelations of Yeshua in the Old Testament. He had already met Messiah, he said, and was teaching them that that is correct. That's who it is. But we're not going to announce it because we will explode the Orthodox world. We'll explode Israel. But I will leave a note, and it'll be on the website and when I die. And so, yes, that's a good question. But when you take everything in context, no, that's not what it was. He very clearly said, concerning the letter abbreviation of his name, the name I told you I would give you. And then it gives the description, but when you pull down the first letter of each word, and that code, the unleashing of that code was given by one of the students because he was told to do that, I guess. That's what Zev and I are pretty sure happened. And when it was announced, David Kaduri went in, and his people, they took it down and started denouncing it. So they knew what it meant too. They knew it wasn't a job description at this point. He actually said Messiah is Yeshua, brought by Yahweh.
Amazing. Carl, unfortunately, we have come to the end of our time together. If people want to find out what happened next, and you've already alluded to it, there's cover-ups, there's all sorts of skullduggery, there's all sorts of claim and counterclaim. They're just going to have to pick up a copy of this wonderful book. Tell people where they can do that and where they can also find out more about you and your work.
I will. And let me just tell your listeners and viewers, yes, please trust me. What comes next is earth-shattering. It's all in my book. There are 4 or 5 events that happen that are just unbelievable, and it's global. The cover-up attempt is global. It's still going on to this day. Zev has had threats from a very powerful group in Israel. I went over to Israel and we got together and we actually offered to come sit down with those people and talk and make a video, and they get a copy, we get a copy, and we promise we will not disparage you at all. But you ask us any question you want and we will answer it, because Zev's connected to the whole rabbinical system. And then here I am, the author, and then the co-author, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They know they can't stand up to the truth. They know it. So all that's in the book too. Yes, folks, you can see me, you can find out about me at carlgallups.com, CarlGallups, carlgallups.com. You can get the books there. You can get Zev's books. He's written all my books, and this one that we wrote together, The Rabbi, the Secret Message, and the Identity of Messiah. Thank you, Sean.
Carl, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Things Visible and Invisible.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Things Visible and Invisible. We're dedicated to uncovering phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, from ancient enigmas and paranormal encounters to scientific anomalies and forgotten histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future explorations. Have a personal experience or story that aligns with our investigations? We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at tvi.show and reach out through our contact form. While we can't feature every submission, we review them all, and your story might be featured in an upcoming episode. To support our continued investigations, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. Your contributions make these explorations possible and give you access to exclusive content, early releases, and monthly behind-the-scenes discussions with our team. Don't forget to check out our merch store. We've got everything from TVI-branded t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and coffee mugs, perfect for showing your support while keeping the mysteries close. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the things visible and invisible.